I'm actually grateful I haven't managed to put anything out into a digital space before I was 25. Not everything is possible. And definitely not everything is probable. There is new trends, there is new fashion, there is a new, for example, there is a new demographic comes into the workforce, and the old policies and rules and things don't work anymore.
I noticed that only 15% of those who watch the podcast are subscribed to the channel. If you subscribe, I promise to make each episode better than the last. In this video, my guest is Katia Lysionak, PhD candidate in leader development, HR program manager at Google, LinkedIn top voice, wannabe artist, and professional immigrant. Welcome, Kate. Katia.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Katia, let's start with our questions right away. Your career has taken you across multiple countries: Belarus, Lithuania, Ireland, New Zealand. How have this experience shaped your professional outlook?
I would also add US to that for a couple of years. It shaped me as a person, right? And it shaped every decision, every step I have taken over the last 15 plus years in my professional development. But if I had to mention one thing only, okay, I think that, you hear a lot of times the statement, everything is possible. And I was like, no. First of all, I'm from Eastern Europe, so I'm very critical, right? So not everything is possible. And definitely not everything is probable. However, there is a lot more possibilities than I personally have ever imagined, being from a small town in Belarus. Okay. And I believe that there is a lot of opportunities that we can go after. Maybe not every one of them is going to work out, but if you dare to dream big, I think a lot more is possible than maybe we think sometimes.
Thank you so much. And from which small town in Belarus are you?
Originally, I was born and raised in Postave. Postave is a military
Wow.
base in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods and mysterious stories that I'm not going to go into. And yeah, that's where I was raised. My mom and my dad is from that area. I've spent most of my summers at my granny's and the farm, running barefoot, eating, organic, seasonal food, working on the farm as well. And that's how I've been raised, wild and free, up until 15, 16 years old.
That's
So
a pity that a TikTok hasn't been created yet. Or you can- yeah, so
or
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 you
it's a really good thing. I'm actually grateful I haven't managed to put anything out into a digital space before I was 25. So I'm really happy, because
yeah,
that
yeah,
would
yeah.
have been a lot of mistakes made very public.
That's great, and I hope our listeners are hitting the like button right now. Are you? And as an HR program manager at Google, what are some of the most impactful programs you've worked on?
Well, there is many, right? And every one of them has had an impact, because as a company, as a professional myself, I'm very, driven by impact, by metrics, by data. So anything we do needs to have a clear impact. However, one of my favorite things I worked on and I continue to contribute is this employee to employee learning program.
Mhm.
It's actually one of the best in the world, in the industry, and it's widely recognized. There is also a lot of public information available out there. But basically, there is this, it's called G2G, Googler to Googler program. So, where every person, every employee in the company can become a teacher, but also can become a student. And sometimes, oftentimes, both, right? So I have been part of this program for many, many years. I've started as a facilitator. I became a Noogler coach, so a coach who supports new joiners who join the company for the first time. I've become a career coach, a manager coach. I've become a team development consultant, where advising, teams across the globe actually on how to work with the highly effective teams. I have designed my own courses. I've become, not only a facilitator, but also an author. I've trained other facilitators on delivering my programs. I mean, the sky is the limit. And we've done community work as a part of this program. So I've been supporting other facilitators and coaches, to get better. So become
Mhm.
sort of more of a supervisory role. And I honestly believe this is a magic program. So imagine that. Imagine that you have like 6,000 people who have expertise, motivation, desire to share, to help other employees around, and it's all done in free time as well. So nobody forces you. It's all volunteer based. I think it's pretty wonderful.
So you also provide peer-to-peer coaching, one-on-one coaching. What are the most common leadership or career challenges you help employees navigate?
So I will talk about my private coaching practice.
Good. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I am an internal Google coach, but I'm also have my own private coaching practice. And in this conversation, I will be talking about that a little bit more. So in my private practice, I noticed there's more or less two categories of requests that come in my way. So one is a person has a clear goal, so they know what they want to get. So for example, move into a new role, get promoted, move to a new company, maybe move into an international company outside of their country of origin, and they need help figuring out how, right? So build the plan, build the skills, maybe have a bit of a support, encouragement, confidence building as well. So that's clear. On the other hand, I also have a big part of my people I work with is who want to change, but they don't know what is the change. So they don't have a clear goal. They just know that they're not happy with where they are right now, but they're not sure how the different future may look like. So before we get into the how planning, right, a big part of that relationship is spent on figuring out the North Star, the why, what's important to them, figuring out what are the options. And then once we identify the options, the most likely options, the most feasible options, we move into, again, action and solution planning and execution. So this is very broadly, but there is every story is amazing and really, really interesting. And I have worked with many, many Belarusians across many, many countries in New Zealand, in Canada, in US, and Britain, running their own businesses, working in multiple large corporations, working in startups, building their own startups. Like I can tell you, and I can see you're wearing a necklace with the Belarus shape on it, and I wear the necklace that says Kahanya from the same, I believe, business that sells them. Honestly, I think Belarusian people are the most, I'm very biased, the most talented and amazing people out there. And I have a story from every imaginable industry and every imaginable country where people from Belarus make, success and build their careers. So a little bit biased, but
Yeah, a little bit of empowering, Belarusian empowering. Yeah,
I mean,
so
look, I have a friend, but also somebody I've worked with and talked to, like a PhD who wrote their PhD in Tokyo University, and now they're teaching in one of the key universities in Boston. And this is just one of the 100 stories I have. So
yeah,
crazy, crazy.
I agree. I agree. So it's true. And thank you so much. And I wonder, I also read that you were Sigma Green Belt certified. And I wonder, what does it mean and how does process optimization play a role in HR program development?
Okay, so that could be either really boring, this answer, because process optimization is not the most exciting thing in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
However, let's talk about it. Well, first of all, just want to admit that Six Sigma is just one of the many ways how you can run projects, how you can ensure quality management, but also process design and optimization. So it's just one of many out there. I personally like this one a lot. I got trained in it. I use it almost every day in my work. Why do I
Yeah.
like it, and how does it help? It's structured approach to problem solving, which is heavily data driven. So, and I'm going to unpack that statement because it's, what does it really mean? HR is any other processes, right? Like you really need to continuously improve them. things break, things get old, processes get old, right? Like there is new trends, there is new fashion, there is a new, for example, there is a new demographic comes into the workforce, and the old policies and rules and things don't work anymore. So it's all obviously naturally HR professionals also work on continuous improvements and getting things better, modern, more efficient, faster, cheaper, more effective, right? And I love Six Sigma because it actually came from manufacturing, right? So in 60s it was, and it still is one of the quality management approaches in manufacturing, but it also got moved into services and other industries. It's always starts with a simple question that I use not only in my HR projects, in my career coaching, but also like just talking to my friends. So now you get trained as well. So you will listen to this carefully.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
So careful, knowledge coming,
Carefully.
okay?
Yeah.
The first thing when you start on any project is you ask one question: what are we solving for? And it's really interesting, and it's really sort of like skyrocket sort of science. But have you noticed often we start with a solution and not a problem?
Definitely.
We get a solution, we get excited. Oh, let's implement a new program. Let's implement a new software. Oh, let's hire, so always like getting excited about solution without really truly realizing, so what is the problem we're solving for? So in Six Sigma, the very first thing you do, what is the problem statement? What is broken and how do we know it's broken?
Mm-hmm.
And solution, believe it or not, but it's one of the last steps in this process. So you do 4 more steps before you get to actually starting designing different types of solutions to actually solve for the root causes and not just the symptoms. So I'm the person, my first job was in market research. I'm a big data person. Like I love running my data analytics. So this approach, has all my favorite bits. It has the data foundation, it has focus on the problem, what are we solving for, and it has a structure, which I love. So I don't know what I can tell you. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
trained in it. But if you hate statistics, maybe don't. So that's the only thing I'm going to say.
Yeah, I just see this Six Sigma from time to time, and I haven't really had time to read what is it about, and now I understand. So it's like a system to make decisions, yeah, and to implement
Well,
process changes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what you have a process, how do you decide what you want to do with it? How do you want to improve it? You can just come up with an idea and improve it, right? A really good example is, pizza on Fridays. Employee is unhappy. What shall we do? Let's buy pizza on Friday. It has never solved anything, right?
At least it has pizza, I mean,
That's true. But rarely, if we really ask those employees, is the root cause of your unhappiness lack of pizza? Honestly,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, I don't think that we will ever hear that answer in our lives.
Usually employers don't like to listen to real answers. Yeah. So
So Six Sigma is really, it can be painful in a way that it uncovers real problems and it
yeah.
comes up with real solutions. So it's not a good approach if you want a quick band-aid example, maybe don't use Six Sigma then. But if you want real change, meaningful change that addresses real problem, honestly, it's an amazing approach.
By the way, I noticed that you were LinkedIn top voice. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Can you share how you got the badge and how do you feel any benefits from it?
Okay, on the benefits, no benefits. I've heard rumors that people get paid and they get what. So I get nothing. Okay, I'll take a step back. I got a free premium account on LinkedIn, so I don't pay for my LinkedIn account. So that's the only thing I got.
Not bad.
Honestly, I am appreciative, and it's we also get community support. We get some webinars where they help us to build your content strategy, so we get that as well. So that's wonderful too. So having access to those resources and community managers, but that's it. So haven't been paid. Maybe one day, who knows? I wouldn't say no to that. How did I get the badge? Honestly, I think the time when I got it, I didn't even know they existed. And so I've started publishing on LinkedIn as a part of my PhD journey, because I was reading a lot of articles, and I still read a lot of academic articles. And I wanted to start publishing, but I felt very, very uncertain and very vulnerable of publishing my own opinion. So I thought, what? I'll do like summaries and interesting insights from the articles I read, written by other smart people. So, I felt a lot more confident doing that than just like putting my own opinions out there. And I started doing that and doing it pretty regularly, because I always joke that me publishing on LinkedIn means I am procrastinating on my dissertation writing. So when you see me post, I should be writing something else, but I'm writing LinkedIn. And I started doing that, and I've just kept doing it. I have friends support and maybe a few new followers here and there, but I haven't had a strategy. I haven't, really had clarity. Why am I doing this? I just kept at it. And then there was this one message I got on LinkedIn from their community management team, who invited me to join like their program, like a 6 weeks program where they helped new content creators to build their voice on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And it was they were looking for people from the region, from EMEA, so from Europe, who were focusing on a specific expert topics. So it wasn't about number of followers you've had. It was about like, are you bringing expert content to the platform? And obviously, I'm pretty much academia focused, so I guess that counted a little bit. So I did the 6 weeks program, and they helped us. They asked us a lot of questions and gave really good advice. This is the first time I had a question like, oh, so what's your content strategy? I was like, I don't have a content strategy. I have a procrastination strategy, right? um, and then I've just kept at it. And 8 months later, I think I got an email that said, congratulations, you're a top voice. Looked at other people who've got it. And they have like 20,000 followers, 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers. And I was like, okay, that's understandable. I think at the time when I got it, I had maybe 3,000, maybe not even 3,000 followers.
Yeah, but but you were an expert, yeah. So they,
So I think that was sort of my offer to the table, right? So I haven't had the traffic, I haven't had the maybe other elements of it. I've had and still do, like a very dry text-based posts about management development, coaching, career coaching, like very clear topics on what I do. So I don't know what to tell you. I wish I had like, some sage advice, like telling people, well, my sage advice is keep writing. So quantity over quality. First of all, you cannot get quality without the quantity, right? You just need to keep going, and you will get better just by doing that. Second, I believe consistency is actually highly valued on the platform. So algorithm pick up on that. And then choose what you're writing about. So that's a big thing, because when we have conversation with people who are interested, I always ask them, so imagine you've launched a magazine. What is your magazine about? Right? So is this about cars, or is it about, gardening, right? Or
yeah.
is it about career development? And stick to the topic, because people need to know what are they coming for. Because if you
Yeah.
publish everything, it's like really publishing nothing. Why would people come back? They don't build a relationship with you, they don't have familiarity. So that's my sage advice on LinkedIn Top Voice. So I wish I had more, but I give you what I have.
Yeah, this is my personal goal to get this LinkedIn Top Voice in the beginning of my profile. And I also think that there is a connection to some big name, to some big brand in the employees, in the employer's brand. Yeah. So as I think, they also tend to highlight those who work for like big tech or other companies that are more popular, like maybe some consulting companies and so on.
You know what
But
was an interesting thing they told me, actually?
yeah,
That
that's
they
interesting.
really struggled with in bringing more women experts into the
Mm,
program and onto the platform. It was really interesting. So, and I asked them, why do you think that is? And obviously they don't know the answer, right? Like we only speculated, and I have some hypothesis, but I do believe that maybe we as a women, which is a wild generalization, so I'll take the
mm,
criticism for that, tend to be a lot more perfectionist and a lot less self-accepting of a learning journey, of making mistakes, maybe of feeling a little bit not as confident, maybe feeling a little bit
mhm,
awkward, maybe, trying a few things, and maybe they're not perfect things before you find what you are really, really proud of.
mhm.
So, and also a lot of women actually don't use that language of calling themselves experts,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a whole
Mm,
different conversation. We're not going to get into it, but I'll just honestly, I have this really interesting situation I've had on LinkedIn feed. I had this post,
mhm,
controversial on purpose. That's what I started doing like this past year. A bit of a more controversial wording, and the conversation was, do you want to be liked or respected as a manager? And it got
mhm,
featured by LinkedIn, and I got like some crazy engagement metrics, which is good. And
mhm.
I've got like 300 comments maybe. And guess what was the percentage of men versus women commenting on that post? So sharing their management perspective, sharing their opinion, their leadership advice.
Let me guess. Men.
Of course, but how much?
How much? Like 60 to 40?
So 75%
Mm,
of all comments, and only very few were from female leaders, managers, professionals. And I was really interested about that, right? Like, because am always interested in women career journeys, because I know they are different in many ways. So my question to myself was, so was this post not shown to women about management, or was it shown to them, but because it was Sunday, it got featured on Sunday lunchtime? So what were the women doing on Sunday lunchtime that they couldn't comment on a LinkedIn post, but men could?
Oh, yeah, this is a totally different conversation.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because female leaders need to be leaders in all the life directions and in family directions too. Yeah, so they don't have time to discuss something on LinkedIn.
Right,
Yeah.
building the brand, like in investing into your social presence, right, your personal brand, it takes time and effort, right? And
Yeah.
Sunday and weekend is often, not for all, right, is family time. And traditionally women take a lot more load in that area, right? So I don't want to sabotage or sidetrack this conversation, but call yourself an expert, keep publishing, choose your topics, and just keep showing up, and I'm sure it will happen.
Thank you. So that's inspiring. And we are moving to the next question. And it's also very interesting for me because you're pursuing a PhD in leadership development. And what are some of the key insights from your research so far?
PhD research is not as exciting, maybe, as some people think. So let me just share a little bit of a backstage, what is happening, right? So PhD for me, because I'm doing it part-time, because I need to work, takes 6 years or so, even maybe a little bit more to finish. So I'm in my year 3, so I'm not even halfway yet. And the first couple of years, all you do literature review, meaning you
Mm,
read all the available research on the things that you're interested in. So
mhm,
I'm actually writing about leadership confidence development in female leaders from Eastern Europe. So it
mm,
has all my favorite things: Eastern Europe, women, leadership, self-confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for this past 2 years, right, that's what I've been doing. I've been building my knowledge base before I do my own research and, do my own analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And often the literature review, you do it because it's part of the process. And academic world has a very strict, sort of guidelines on the process. It's not exactly rocket science. It's things that we know. Basically, women have it really harder across everything. It's harder for them to get hired. It's harder for them to get promoted, to be recognized, to be fired more easily. This is a big problem across, many industries in many countries where, pregnant women get fired. There is, so that's me just building that internal database of knowledge of how things are.
Mm-hmm.
And in my next step, which I was really excited about, we've built a machine learning program, so basically a learning model that helped me to analyze Wikipedia biographies of all female leaders in 21st centuries in Eastern Europe and Western Europe and compare them, because I was interested to understand what are the narratives out there,
Mm-hmm.
how we understand leadership, how women understand leadership through publicly available role models.
Wow.
And it's a really fun process to build something like that, right? So you pick up a lot of skills along the way, and the first observations, right? So I'm still working the data, and I still continue working on that. Well, of course, it's different, right? So Western and Eastern Europe have a very different cultural, historical, sociological context. But it's very visible through those biographies that women in Eastern Europe hit a ceiling much faster than women in Western Europe, much faster. So
for ages. I mean,
for development, for career journeys, for titles.
I mean, and it happens and it happened in the 20th century, in 19th century, in
No,
80s.
I'm just doing 21st century. So
you're talking about 21st century. That's interesting because there was a huge legacy of Soviet Union that was so pro feminist. Let's say so. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was pro working. Yeah, not pro feminist.
Yes. So as somebody who I personally had that perception myself, I'll be honest with you, but until I've started really researching and reading and understanding what was happening, truly so, right? But a lot of those structures were very artificial and very shallow in a way, because in the 90s, the moment, the change happened, and mostly because childcare got revoked, right? So affordable, high quality childcare got revoked. The percentage of women in any sort of meaningful leadership positions dropped from whatever that was. It was, they had a quota at that time, let's say 30%, but I don't remember. So let's not trust that number completely. To right now, if I'm not mistaken, if I look at McKinsey report, across the whole Central and Eastern Europe, there is not even 6% of women in senior leadership positions in business. So not in politics or not in private or public sector, but in private sector. So yeah. And that's much lower compared to, Nordics, compared to some Western countries and so on.
Yeah,
so
probably I live in a bubble of strong and empowered women.
Hopefully, and that's wonderful, right? Absolutely wonderful. And, that research obviously needs to be updated. All kinds of academic research is very much behind with what's happening in real life. So, yeah, but again, I think it's a separate podcast if we were to talk.
Yeah, definitely.
What it meant to be a woman during the Soviet times, including all the policies and what it really meant and how it manifested itself. And did it really drive a deep change, meaningful change, both in men and women? I don't know. Another conversation about it.
Yeah. Next 8 March 8. Yeah, we should do this. Yeah, but it's still like we're recording during the March, so it's
Mm.
a female month. So, yeah, and in general, what do you think are the most important qualities of future leaders in today's evolving workplace?
I honestly believe the most important qualities don't change for future leaders, past leaders, present
Mhm.
leaders. I don't think that basic skill set changes. And for the senior leadership, it's always been conceptual skills. So we're talking, the top level leaders. What does it mean, conceptual skills? It means having a vision,
Mhm.
being able to integrate complex ideas and different new perspectives
Mhm.
and forecast and make decisions. And
How
that hasn't
so?
changed. That's been the same even back in 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and it will, and I believe it will be the same in the future. That will not change.
So yeah, like visionary forecasting, and how do you think it's possible during this time when everything is changed so fast? Is it just that leaders should be bolder in their visions and I mean to make decisions even faster than they did previously? Because it seems like no one can predict what will happen like in
No,
5 years. No?
no, nobody can. And it's interesting because this fail fast mentality was like a big thing, I think, in Silicon Valley a few years ago.
Yes.
Still is, I believe. It has a lot of ups and downs, and it has been debated recently. You see, the point about the leaders is they are out there in the world, living, analyzing, making decision, making mistakes, moving forward. And then academics like myself come and we study them after they did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we extrapolate and we sort of return back that knowledge, hoping, maybe to
Mm-hmm.
give to give back that knowledge to the society. But you see how leaders are always ahead of academia. So yes, being informed, yes, to be knowledgeable of what happened and how things been done, and yes, of course, maybe don't jump blindly into things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think part of the leadership is taking risk into the unknown and taking responsibility and making decision. I think where the conversation is a little bit more nuanced and it could be, a little bit more controversial is at management level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a leader, so at the leadership level, conceptual skills is the most important. At managerial level, it's usually interpersonal skills, right? So think of your middle manager, frontline manager, right? You focus, well, they should focus on managing people, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
ideas, not yet. They need people to deliver results.
Mm-hmm.
Conflict resolution, performance management, right? Career development, all those soft skills, right? So
Yeah.
it's really interesting because as a leader, so to grow into that, you know, higher echelons of leadership, you need to go through all those steps. So you need to be an expert, then you need to become a strong person who can manage stakeholders and people and who has a strong soft skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also need to be able to manage complex ideas. So it's if you think about it, it's actually a very different skill set and requirements at each level. So to me, anybody who would like to be a leader in the future, I think that first of all, it's a person who can learn. I'm biased again, I'm a learning freak myself.
Uh, yeah.
But
And
I think a person, yeah, basically open to
mm,
learn new things because different things will be required of them as they
mhm.
evolve.
Probably in some career paths, some people can just skip some levels because they aren't great in these levels. Yeah. So, and probably I know a bunch of people that could never go through.
Founders and entrepreneurs, I
Yeah,
think a lot of us think about founders and entrepreneurs, right, who get the business off. But very often you also will realize that they will usually run into their own limitations of how they can manage people. They can grow the
definitely.
business up to a certain level, usually 150 to 300 people max.
Hmm.
And then they either need to bring a people who know how to
Yeah.
operationalize and scale at that level, or they become a bottleneck of their own company.
Yeah,
So
100%
they don't
agree.
skip it. They don't skip it. They become blockers to their own growth and development. But yeah, I mean, leaders is not about titles, right? Leaders are, you're a leader because you build your own product, an idea, a community, and you bring interesting stories to people,
Hmm.
which is exciting and inspirational, right? That's leadership. I do my own research and I focus on topics I care about, and then I try and sell back those ideas and through
Hmm.
workshops, coaching. Sell is a very strong word, but position,
Hmm.
make them more simple, more appealing for social media, let's say. I also consider that a form of leadership, right? Like it's an idea and a knowledge type of
Sure.
leadership. So I think vision and passion and decision making. There is no leadership without action. That's for sure.
Agree. So like couldn't agree more. And while we're talking about leadership development, I would also like to talk about HR evolving. So how do you see HR evolving over the next 5, 10 years, especially with AI and automation playing a
Of course.
large role? Yeah.
Of course, right? So technology has always been playing a huge role, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the honest answer, I don't know. I mean, could go crazy, right? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. How I choose to think about that, right, is thinking about the functions of HR. So again, what is HR solving for?
Mm-hmm.
Technology and tooling is just technology and tooling. It's not going to substitute why HR exists. So if I think about, so why does HR exist, right? So usually it's hiring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talent acquisition. Usually it's onboarding, making sure people, know how to do their job, training and development, making sure, they're upskilled, performance management, employee engagement, benefits, making sure people get paid, right? And
Mm-hmm.
planning for the future. So I don't think any of those functions are going to disappear, right? I think,
Yeah, but I think that they already pretty automated, a lot of
of
them.
course. So
Yes,
I
if
think,
I can compare it from the perspective of Eastern Europe and US, for example, it's a huge difference. So probably some of the employees could never meet anyone from HR. I mean, only talent acquisition specialists, and everything else, like from onboarding to exit, everything will be conducted by some internal platform policies and managers. They direct managers. Yeah. So.
of course, yes. And you're absolutely right. So all of those functions are still going to exist. I mean, somebody will need to manage them, right? Program
Yeah. Design
managers,
them.
vendor
Yeah. Yeah.
managers,
Yeah. Agree.
design
Yeah.
them, launch
Mm-hmm.
them, sustain them, track them,
Mm-hmm.
review them.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think when we talk about, I think you and I are both part of the same bubble, of a very privileged, less than 1% in the world kind of bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Working in the tech, working in the first world, which I defined by, Western Europe and or US, as well as Australia and New Zealand, working in the tech industry, IT industry, right, that has been
Mm-hmm.
obviously skyrocketing. And I think we often forget that this is not the whole world.
Definitely.
There are way more people outside of our little teeny tiny bubble that thinks, the world evolves around us, who have never used a chatbot in their life. There is healthcare, there is education and academia, there is manufacturing, there is agriculture that still
Mm-hmm.
is pretty important, right? There is construction that
Mm-hmm.
employs way more people than, any tech startups,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. And I'm sure I haven't mentioned a lot of other industries. So AI to them right now is a distant thing that will, of course, make their ways through automation, new
Mm-hmm.
tools, and so on and so forth. But it will look and feel very different. And I think, I mean, HR as a function is probably more susceptible to automation, but somebody got to manage it. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how HR will look like. Does it mean we'll have less people doing more job? Probably. That's what inbox did to us. When internet appeared, we just started. Actually, they kept the same amount of people, but those people started doing a lot more work.
Yeah, and I think that it's
Could
yeah,
be one of the way
so.
forward. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that we will go through this, when we fall in love with AI and everything's going to be AI driven, and just like maybe going a little bit crazy and mad with it, which is fine. That's what we do. But I also think that then it will become a little bit more balanced. And we've seen it with some of the digital technology already. So two examples come to mind. One is screens and iPads in schools, right? When
Mm-hmm.
they took textbooks out, and like a lot of schools in like Scandinavia and other countries were just like, we've introduced iPads. It's so, it's a new thing. It's amazing for our kids.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They've just reintroduced textbooks.
Yeah, because now we have a different problem. Yeah, the ADHD,
Exactly.
like
And other things, right, among them.
yeah.
And the same was with what was it? Oh, with the magazines and online publishing, right? So I worked in digital online publishing for a little bit, and it, a lot of people predicted that online publishing will disappear because content is free now. Who's going to pay for magazines and newspapers, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is going to happen to all those journalists and all the other stuff? And of course, there's been massive change, and I'm sure there's been, maybe not only positive changes as a part of it, but the Atlantic, the magazine.
Probably, yeah.
So it's one of the American based magazines that, so they've just reintroduced. They went back from 10 magazines per year to 12 magazines per year, because their subscription base for printed magazines is the largest it has ever been in their history.
To be honest, I'm not surprised because I'm living in the middle of Silicon Valley and I receive mail spam like each day. And some of the retailers, for example, like furniture retailers, they send this kind of like this thickness like magazine just with beautiful pictures of furniture. So I can imagine that and if you will come to each like grocery store, you will find a lot of journals about everything from National Geographic to like Brad Pitt new love story.
Right. So that didn't disappear for some reason, right? Even though
Yeah.
the technology, to completely live without us is very freely available.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope, people will manage people in some way or form with the help of the tools. So,
Yeah.
this very cheesy saying, AI will not replace you, a person with AI will replace you.
Mm.
I mean, it's so
But
cheesy
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
been
that's
overused, but
that's true.
in principle, I agree with it.
Okay, it's like definitely a topic from other direction, but it's still very interesting for me. Like as someone who has successfully navigated a global career, what advice would you give to professionals looking for transition into international roles?
A definition of success is very subjective. So, but thank
Sure,
you.
true, yeah.
I do consider my career successful for me. I know a lot of people who wouldn't, and that's okay too. But what would I share? Three things and three books, because I am a book person. I'm old school. So, first one is not a book, but a framework of expat adjustment cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I would encourage absolutely everyone, if you move into a new country and because of a job, international career, you're changing location, read about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to take you less than 15 minutes to go through, the foundations of it. And hopefully it will really help you to manage of what's coming. In the first 2 years are the hardest. So whoever moves for whatever reason into the new location, especially if it's a new country, but even new city could be a triggering event. You go through 2 years of pain. Okay. First 3 to 6 months, honeymoon, you're happy, enjoying. And then it's just a roller coaster of frustration. Please do not think it's you. You failed. You made the wrong decision. Absolutely not. It's fine. You will be fine. Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going through the pain and read about it. So it's very well studied, this phenomena. Okay. So this is one thing. Second, how to get into the new role. My favorite book is The First 90 Days. That is a very practical, business sort of driven book that helps you to really build your own onboarding plan into the role, any role, right? International, not international. It's a really well written, and it has helped many, many people, including myself. And the last but not least, I would really recommend reading Cultural Map and or understand it through other channels, talking to people, reading other materials on intercultural communication. This is by far, and I've worked with people from 50 different countries probably over the last 50 years or 15 years in different locations. This is by far the hardest thing. You will learn, you know what I mean? You will learn your hard skills. If you know how to code, you know how to code. If you know how to write communications, you know how to write communications. You'll be fine. But then you need those soft skills, interpersonal skills, right? Stakeholder management. That means talking to people. You will start looking for the next opportunity in that country. And that means those opportunities will be attached to people, usually from this country. So intercultural communication. And I have so many stories and so many anecdotes specifically on Eastern European communication faux pas with Irish and British. I have a book of anecdotes. Some are funny, most are sad.
Yeah. Could you share one funny story?
Funny. I had my own, but also a lot of, my friends and colleagues I worked with. Example, I've had a meeting. There is a global meeting, 60 people or so present, discussing, like management, giving updates on things. This has happened, this didn't happen, blah, blah. And showing slides with some numbers. And then somebody, raises a virtual hand and says on the slide, oh, but it seems like the data hasn't been updated. It's a mistake. What do you think of this situation?
Was there any mistake there or
Yeah,
not?
it's a mistake. Yeah, so, or not. We don't know. Maybe.
Yes.
It was a mistake. Yeah, it was like honest.
Yeah. So probably the person who did the presentation was very upset with this comment.
But when you say very upset, how, like, define very upset?
Decided to
Why?
cancel the meeting.
No. Why do you think they were upset?
I have no idea. I mean, maybe because the person was very emotional. Maybe they were drunk. I don't know. When we're talking about Ireland, I could imagine everything. Yeah.
So the person who was presented was actually American.
American, got it.
And it was a good colleague of mine. And the moment it happened, I started messaging them, telling them, let's talk after the meeting. How are you feeling? And the person was in tears.
Oh my God.
Because they felt disrespected, humiliated, and completely, they felt like they were just thrown under a bus by a person that they thought they had a good working relationship with.
Got it. Yeah. So something that
And then
you consider like a normal like critic, like healthy critic. And it's not a critic of the person. Yeah, it's just a small remark. Yeah. So yeah.
So it's interesting where you see what you're saying, because I've also then, a person who made the remark also was my good friend from Eastern Europe.
I
And
could
they gave
imagine
me
be on on their place.
So what do you think they told me? So when they were saying that, I'm very action oriented. I was literally writing, stop talking right now.
Got it.
Stop talking.
Mhm.
And I talked to them after the meeting, and I've asked them, what do you think happened?
They just wanted not to confuse everyone with this mistake.
Yeah, it was a mistake. It was not a big deal. You mark a
Yeah,
mistake, you move on.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I tried, and this is a part of actually emotional intelligence, right? Where you work on social awareness of how your communication lands with other people, especially other cultures. And I was asking them, like, how do you think that made them feel? And they go, well, shouldn't make them feel anyhow. It's like, if it was me, I wouldn't notice it. I was like, yeah, but it wasn't you.
Mm-hmm.
And also, no. And yeah, that didn't work well for them too well, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
This
I
is
have
also an
more.
interesting
I have
topic. Yeah,
so
yeah.
many more.
I agree.
And
I agree. Yeah. So,
and the saddest part is that when I talk to my Eastern European fellows and they go, Katya, but you don't want me to be sincere. You
mm-hmm,
don't want me to be me. And I'm the biggest person, of being sincere, authentic, real you person, being proud of where you're from.
mm-hmm,
I was like, that's not the same. When you learn the language, it's not just learning the words.
mm-hmm.
The language is learning the context of how you say things. In Ireland, in 10 years, I've been living in Ireland for 10 years. I've never heard, Alona, a direct no.
Oh my God.
Never, never. In 10 years, never. Never
Oh.
have ever a single Irish person told me, no, we cannot do it. No, it's not allowed. No, it's not a good idea. No, we've tried it. It didn't work before. Never.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think I received a lot of rejection? Of course I have.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. So,
Intercultural communication, my favorite thing. So if you're building career internationally, Culture Map, please check out the book, amazing book,
yeah,
and
yeah, I believe
learn
so.
about this intent versus impact concept in communication.
Thank you. And we're switching to another new topic.
Sorry.
And it's you're a Google mentor for startups, startups mentor. What common mistakes do early stage startups make when it comes to HR and talent development?
I cannot talk about the Google
I mean, any
startups,
others?
and I don't
Just
have a data, and I don't know the answer
mhm.
to the question. So I do mentor startups, but also outside of Google as well.
Yeah,
I just want to remind that one of the top 3 reasons why why startups fail, obviously market product fit, one of them, lack of cash,
yeah.
another thing.
Hmm.
But the number 3 and other actually very highly on that scale is team mismanagement, team
Hmm.
dynamics, and burnout, wrong people in the team as well. So
Hmm.
this is a very well-known research in
Hmm.
overall. So very often when you start a project together, a startup together,
Hmm.
you get people together based on the relationship first rather than skills. And skills is important, but relationship plays a bigger role. And as you keep, if you survive the hardest, and you moved on to like next investment round, usually that practice stays. You hire for who you know for rather than for what people can do and capable of. And
Hmm.
that's what will bring it to the ground eventually. Because being a nice person is not a CV. It's very important, right? It's very important, but the hardcore hard skills are equally as important.
Yeah, and I think that the high scale of this problem is when founders are choosing co-founders and other founders. Yeah, and it's like the core team, and sometimes it also can be dramatically insufficient. There are a lot more questions that I would like to discuss with you, but we will run out of time. So I have two more, and it's more about your personal ideas and your personal goals. So, what's next for you? Any upcoming projects, research, initiatives you're excited about, and maybe you want to share?
No, a lot of them, and some of them I cannot share, and some I can. Well, PhD is a project. Remember how I said it takes 6 years? I'm only in my year 3, so I need to stay excited for another 3 years.
Wish you good luck.
Hard. Thank you. It's hard. There's also, I hope I'm not going to be part of that statistic, but 40 to 60% of PhD students drop out. It's a tough gig, but I'm excited about the topic, so I hope I'll persevere. I am focusing more right now on team coaching and team development. I've always been doing individual coaching, and I've been doing team coaching and like team interventions, team trainings. Now I want to swap. So I was doing 80% individual, 20% team. Now I want to do 80% team, 20% individual. I love working with teams. It's a little bit, not a little bit, it's a lot more complex because it's a multiple people dynamic. So it's really interesting. So developing, I hope I will be focused on developing my own manager academy content, which I have tested some of it, and it worked really well with a very strong feedback. So, my dream would be to continue to do that. I love designing, up-to-date, business-heavy, practice-heavy interventions, learning studies. I don't believe in theory for the sake of theory. I believe in action. So that's something I'm excited about. I want to write a book. It's scary. I think imposter syndrome is strong. I've even saying that out loud took me several years to like even build up the courage, tell it myself, like I want to write
Oh
a
my
book,
God.
but then being able to say it like I want to write a book. I don't know if I ever will, but I want to. Not one book. I have a whole idea of things I want to write about, right?
But look, I've got a plan for you. So you should start writing a book, and then you will procrastinate with your PhD, you know?
On
So
the book. And then on my book, I can procrastinate with LinkedIn. And if I want to
yeah.
procrastinate on LinkedIn, I go and take my dog for a walk. It's a solid plan. I think it might work. I think it
Yeah,
might
it
work.
should. It should. The book could be a fuel for something else. Yeah. 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 I'm sorry for
But
interrupting.
honestly speaking, I no, you're not interrupting. And I've been doing a lot of things. Actually, I think I'm at this point where I actually need to do less because I want more quality and more depth in what I do. Always excited about the next shiny thing, and that's never been a problem for me. Like when it was pandemic, oh my god, I've got another master's, I got an art degree. Like I was so bored, I just when I'm bored, I just go get another degree. That's like my answer to everything in this life, uh, or certification. I'm booked for June. I'm booked for diploma in strategic project management and PMI certification. I don't even consider that a project, So some people would. Yeah. So my plan is to choose 2, maybe 3 things I want to focus on and say no to everything else. This is going to be the biggest challenge.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, and I can imagine that in the modern world when there are so many new shiny things and you can check your um like friends on Instagram, on LinkedIn, everywhere. So everyone is doing something, everyone is
Something, right?
yeah, yeah,
Something
yeah. And you're like,
exciting.
oh my God, this fear of missing out is making me crazy. Yeah, so it's really hard not to it's really hard to focus on one thing. So it's like a goal ADHD, yeah, when you're trying to um reach everything at the one moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And it's
I
impossible and it's frustrating and it's
yeah, in Valley, it's just it's a disease here. So I can feel it myself. I see it around people, and like it's so hard just to stay where you are and to follow your goals and
your
purposes.
thing.
And at the same moment, it's the only key to success. Just to
Yep.
focus badly
Yep.
on something, like deeply
Yep.
on one thing,
Yep.
and just keep going, and like everything around you, all the surrounding is trying to to take your attention
Yeah.
into other area.
100%. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
less project. That's what I'm
yeah.
not excited. I'm scared of it, but that's what needs to happen. We'll see.
Yeah, and so, and the very last question. So, if you could give your younger self one piece of a career advice, what would it be?
Ask for help.
Like, okay, got it. And like, help.
But that's an honest one. You know what I mean? Keep going what you're doing. Like I've been absolutely, honestly, naive, but also unstoppable. I'm still am a little bit like that. I see a thing, I go off to thing. But by doing those things, a lot of times I've reinvented the bicycle, and I have taken the wrong road or the wrong turn or the long road and the harder road, whereas it could be faster, easier, cheaper, simpler. Only if, you know what I mean, before jumping and doing all the hard work myself, which not the worst quality, to be honest, not to be afraid of a hard work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've looked around and I've asked myself, can I ask for advice? Can I ask
Mm-hmm.
for help for somebody who already did that? Can I ask for help, maybe with other things? So not doing everything yourself. Um, yeah. But I don't know, maybe at
I
20,
agree.
I wasn't,
This.
maybe I wasn't able to do that. I don't know. But I think I would have gone even further with the less cost if I used, all the resources available to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like 100% agree. So maybe it's a mm, like something that is in the culture of Eastern Europe, that asking for help is a weakness or something like that. And to be honest, it's such a strength. Yeah, so you can. Yeah, I agree with
It's not even a
you.
strength. It's not a reality check, right? Like a lot of
Hmm.
people think success is self-reliant. It never is. It always takes a village. Think about it. I mean, usually people use sports
Hmm.
metaphor, so I'll use a sport metaphor. I'm not a sport person.
Hmm.
Um, think about Olympians, right? And them going for that medal. Think
Hmm.
about how many people they work hard, right? Nobody argues that
Yeah,
they are the hardest working people, right? But think about how many other people are there to make it happen.
sure.
Dietitians, pharmacists, coaches, multiple coaches, meditation partners, their family supports them. They don't clean their house probably. They probably have cleaners, right? And they focus on what they need to focus.
Hmm.
They have sponsors. They have advisors. They have, they have people who help them with their media image. It's probably a team of easily 10 to 50 people all working so that one person, right, can do their thing, go on that pedestal and wave that flag.
Hmm.
And that's any success is like that. And I
Yeah.
think I think it's a little bit naive, and I think I was just a child who, saw those stories, and I believed it's just like you do it. It's even a self-made story is usually a story of somebody helping, somebody guiding, somebody supporting,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, just not to kid yourself. It's no, you cannot do it all. You either do a lot less and you ask for a lot of help, especially women.
Period. Yes.
Period.
Thank you so much, Kasia. Yeah, it was nice having you on this podcast. Yeah.
Thank
So
you so much for inviting me.